The dust cloud followed Jace Thornton for miles before he finally saw the wooden sign that read, Copper Creek, population 247. His horse, a tired brown mare named Belle, snorted as they rode down the main street. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and red. Jace pulled his hat down low. He didn't want anyone looking too closely at his face. Not yet, anyway. He had been riding for 3 weeks, moving from town to town, looking for work and trying to stay ahead of his past. The drought had taken everything from him. His cattle, his land, his hope. All he had left was Belle, his saddle, and the clothes on his back. His stomach growled as he smelled food coming from the small restaurant at the end of the street. Copper Creek looked like every other small town he had passed through. A few stores, a church, a saloon, and houses scattered around like someone had thrown them down without much thought. But something felt different here. The people on the street looked worried. They whispered to each other and glanced around nervously. Jace tied Belle to the post outside Murphy's saloon and walked inside. The place was half empty, which was strange for a Friday night. The bartender, a heavy man with gray hair, looked up when Jace walked in. "Evening, stranger," the bartender said. "What can I get you?" "Beer and whatever food you got," Jace replied, sitting at the bar. "And maybe some information about work around here." The bartender poured a beer and set it down. "Work's hard to come by these days. Most of the ranches are struggling. The widow Hayes might need help, but—" He stopped talking and shook his head. "But what?" Jace asked. Before the bartender could answer, the saloon doors swung open. 3 men in suits walked in, looking serious. Behind them came a man wearing a badge, the deputy sheriff. The whole saloon went quiet. "Evening, folks," said the oldest man in a suit. "As you all know, we have a situation that needs fixing. The town council has made a decision about the Hayes property." Jace listened while pretending to focus on his beer. He learned that Sheriff Tom Hayes had died 2 months ago from a fever. His wife Rebecca was left with a big ranch, but she owed money to the bank. The town needed her to keep the land because it had the only good water source for miles around. "The bank wants their money in 30 days, the councilman continued. "Mrs. Hayes can't pay it alone. She needs a husband to help run the ranch and make the payments." An old cowboy at a corner table laughed. "You make it sound like buying a horse, councilman." "This is serious, Pete," the councilman replied. "If she loses that land, the new owner might cut off our water rights. Half this town would dry up and blow away." Jace finished his beer and asked for another. The bartender leaned closer. "They've been trying to find someone to marry her for weeks. Problem is, most of the single men around here are either too old, too young, or too poor to help with the ranch." "What about her? What does she want?" Jace asked. "Rebecca. She's against the whole idea. Can't blame her. She loved Tom something fierce. But the council says if she doesn't marry someone soon, they'll have to let the bank take the land." The councilman left, and the deputy stayed behind. He walked over to the bar and stood next to Jace. "You're new in town," the deputy said. It wasn't a question. "Just passing through," Jace replied. "Looking for work?" "Maybe." The deputy studied Jace's face. "You look like a man who knows his way around cattle and horses." "I've worked ranches before." "Good, because I think the council might want to talk to you." The deputy's hand rested on his gun. "Real soon," Jace understood. This wasn't a request. He finished his beer and followed the deputy outside. They walked to a small building next to the general store. Inside, the 3 council members sat around a table covered with papers. "Sit down, mister," the oldest councilman said. "Thornton. Jace Thornton. Mr. Thornton, we have a business proposition for you." The councilman spread out some papers. "This is a map of the Hayes Ranch. 3,000 acres, good water, decent grazing land, worth about $5,000. Jace looked at the map. It was a good-sized spread, bigger than what he used to own. "Mrs. Hayes needs a husband," the councilman continued. "Someone who can help her run the ranch and make the bank payments. In return, that man would own half of everything." "What if she doesn't want to marry me?" Jace asked. "She'll agree," the councilman said. "She has to. The whole town depends on it." Jace stood up. "I'm not looking for a wife. Just work." "Sit down, Mr. Thornton." The deputy's voice was quiet but firm. "We're not finished talking." The councilman pulled out another paper. "Deputy Wilson here ran your name through some old wanted posters. Seems there's a man named Jace Thornton wanted for cattle rustling down in Texas. $500 reward. Jace's blood went cold, but he kept his face calm. Lot of men named Jace Thornton in Texas. Maybe so, but this one has a scar on his left hand from a rope burn, just like you do. Jace looked down at his hand. The scar was old but still visible. Now we're not interested in collecting that reward, the councilman said. We need you here, but if you don't help us out, well, Deputy Wilson might have to send a telegram to Texas. Jace was trapped, and he knew it. He could run, but they'd telegraph ahead to other towns. He could fight, but there were too many of them. Besides, he was tired of running. What exactly are you asking me to do? He said finally. Marry Rebecca Hayes, help her save the ranch. Stay married for at least a year to make sure everything's legal. After that, you can do whatever you want. And if I say no, then you'll be on the next train to Texas in chains. Jace thought about Rebecca Hayes. He had seen her once walking to the general store. She was a small woman with dark hair and sad eyes. She looked like someone who had been carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She knows about this. She will tomorrow. The wedding's planned for Saturday. That's 3 days away. Plenty of time to get acquainted. Jace looked around the room at the three men. They weren't evil, just desperate. The whole town was depending on him to save them. And maybe, just maybe, this was his chance to stop running and build something again. Do I get to talk to her first? He asked. Of course. You'll meet her tomorrow morning. But Mr. Thornton, understand this, you will marry her on Saturday. Whether she likes it or not, whether you like it or not. Too many people are counting on this. Jace nodded slowly. I'll need a place to stay until then. Room above the saloon is yours. Murphy will put it on the town's bill. As Jace walked back to the saloon, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. He was about to marry a woman he didn't know, to save a town that was blackmailing him, but at least he wasn't running anymore. Tomorrow he would meet Rebecca Hayes and try to explain why their lives were about to change forever. Rebecca Hayes stood at her kitchen window, watching the morning sun rise over the prairie. Her coffee had gone cold in her hands, but she didn't notice. Her mind was spinning from what the town council had told her the night before. They wanted her to marry a stranger. She touched the wedding ring on her finger, Tom's ring. He had been gone for 2 months, but it still felt like yesterday. How could they ask her to replace him with some cowboy who had just ridden into town? Mama, you're crying again. Rebecca turned to see her daughter Lucy standing in the doorway. The 8-year-old girl had her father's green eyes and his way of noticing everything. I'm just thinking, sweetheart, Rebecca said, wiping her eyes. Come have some breakfast. Lucy climbed onto her chair at the small kitchen table. Are you thinking about Papa? Yes, baby, always. Rebecca made Lucy some eggs and toast, trying to act normal. But her hands were shaking. How could she explain to her daughter that a stranger was coming to their house today, that this stranger might become her new father? Mama, there's a man riding up to our house, Lucy said, looking out the window. Rebecca's heart jumped. She looked outside and saw a tall man on a brown horse. He wore a dark hat and dusty clothes. Even from a distance, she could tell he was the kind of man who had seen hard times. Lucy, go to your room and play for a while, Rebecca said. But Mama, go, now. Rebecca watched the man tie his horse to the fence post. He walked slowly, like someone who was thinking about every step. When he knocked on the door, it was gentle, not demanding. Rebecca took a deep breath and opened the door. The man was taller than she expected, with broad shoulders and work-rough hands. His face was weathered from years in the sun, and he had gray eyes that looked like they had seen too much. A scar ran along his left hand. Mrs. Hayes? I'm Jace Thornton. His voice was quiet and respectful, not what she had expected from someone the town council had chosen for her. I know who you are, Rebecca said. The council told me you'd be coming. They stood there for a moment, both uncomfortable. Rebecca didn't invite him in, and Jace didn't ask. This wasn't my idea, Jace said finally. I want you to know that. Then why are you here? Jace looked down at his boots. Because I don't have much choice. And neither do you, from what I hear. Rebecca felt anger rise in her chest. So you're here to save me? Is that it? No, ma'am. I'm here because the town council made it clear I needed to be here. But I won't force anything on you that you don't want. Something in his voice made Rebecca look at him more carefully. He seemed as trapped as she felt. Come inside, she said. We might as well talk about this. Jace followed her into the small parlor. Rebecca noticed he took off his hat and held it respectfully. He looked around the room, taking in the pictures of her and Tom, the quilts she had made, the life they had built together. "You had a good marriage," Jace said. "The best. Tom was a good man. A gentleman." She sat down across from him. "I hear you're wanted by the law in Texas." Jace's jaw tightened. "The council told you that?" "They told me everything. They said you were accused of stealing cattle." "Accused, not guilty. What's the difference? You're still running from something." Jace was quiet for a long moment. "A man named Dalton Reed owned most of the land around my ranch in Texas. He wanted my water rights. When I wouldn't sell, he framed me for rustling his cattle. I had to leave everything behind and run." Rebecca studied his face. He didn't look like a liar, but then again, she had always been too trusting. Tom used to tease her about it. "So you lost your ranch too," she said. "Everything. My cattle, my land, my good name. All I had left was my horse and the clothes on my back. And now you're supposed to save my ranch." "The council seems to think so." Rebecca stood up and walked to the window. "Do you know what it's like to love someone so much that you can't imagine living without them? And then have to?" "No, ma'am. I never had that. Tom and I met when we were 15. We grew up together, planned our whole lives together. When he died, I thought my life was over too. But you have your daughter to think about." Rebecca turned around. "How do you know about Lucy?" "I saw her in the window. She looks like she has your husband's eyes." Before Rebecca could respond, Lucy appeared in the doorway. She had been listening, of course. "Are you going to be my new papa?" Lucy asked Jace directly. Rebecca was embarrassed. "Lucy, go back to your room." But Jace knelt down so he was at Lucy's level. "What do you think about that idea?" he asked her. Lucy tilted her head, studying him. "You're bigger than Papa was, and your voice is different." "That's true. Do you know how to fix things? Papa could fix anything. I can fix most things." "What needs fixing?" "My rocking horse has a broken leg. Mama tried to fix it, but she's not very good with tools." Rebecca felt her face turn red. It was true. She had never been handy with repairs. "I could take a look at it," Jay said. "If your mama says it's okay." Lucy looked at Rebecca hopefully. "Please, Mama." Rebecca wanted to say no. She didn't want this stranger in their house touching their things, making Lucy hope for things that might not work out. But Lucy had been so sad since Tom died. If a fixed rocking horse could make her smile, maybe it was worth it. "All right, but just for a few minutes." Lucy led Jace to her room, chattering about her toys and her horse. Rebecca followed, watching as Jace examined the broken rocking horse. He was gentle with it, turning it over carefully. "I can fix this," he said, "but I'll need some tools and a piece of wood." "We have tools in the barn," Rebecca said. "Tom's tools." Something passed over Jace's face when she mentioned her dead husband's tools. "Are you sure you want me using them?" Rebecca hesitated. Those tools were Tom's. She had been avoiding the barn because everything in there reminded her of him. But what good were tools that nobody used? "Yes," she said. "They should be used for something good." An hour later, Jace had fixed the rocking horse. Lucy was delighted, riding it back and forth across her room. Rebecca watched from the doorway as Jace showed Lucy how the repair worked. "You're good with children," Rebecca said when they went back to the parlor. "Never had much chance to be around them before." "Mr. Thornton, I need to be honest with you. I don't want to remarry. I loved my husband, and I'm not ready to love anyone else." "I understand. But I also can't lose this ranch. It's all Lucy and I have left. So if we do this thing the council wants, it would have to be a business arrangement. Nothing more." Jace nodded. "That's fine with me. You would sleep in the barn. We would live like business partners. Nothing else." "I understand. And if you ever did anything to hurt Lucy or made her think you were trying to replace her father, I would shoot you myself." For the first time, Jace almost smiled. "Yes, ma'am. I believe you would." They sat in silence for a while, both thinking about what they were agreeing to. Finally, Rebecca spoke. "The council said the wedding would be Saturday. That's what they told me. I suppose we should go along with it then. For Lucy's sake and for the town." "For the ranch," Jace added. "Yes, for the ranch." As Jace got ready to leave, Lucy ran up to him. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked. Jace looked at Rebecca, who nodded reluctantly. I'll come back tomorrow, he promised. After he left, Rebecca sat in her kitchen and cried. She felt like she was betraying Tom's memory, even though her mind knew she was doing what she had to do. But maybe, she thought, Jace Thornton wasn't the worst man the council could have chosen. At least he seemed to understand that this wasn't about love. It was about survival. Saturday morning came too quickly for both of them. Rebecca stood in front of her bedroom mirror, wearing the same blue dress she had worn to church every Sunday with Tom. It was the nicest dress she owned, but it felt wrong to wear it for marrying another man. Lucy sat on the bed, swinging her legs. You look pretty, Mama. Thank you, sweetheart. Are you scared? Rebecca turned around. A little. Are you? Lucy thought about it seriously. I think Papa would want us to be safe. Mr. Jace seems nice. And he fixed my horse. Children had a way of making things simple, Rebecca thought. If only it were that easy for grown-ups. The ceremony was held at the small church in town. Most of the townspeople came, but not because they were happy. They came because they were worried about what would happen if Rebecca lost the ranch. Reverend Matthews kept the service short. Rebecca and Jace stood side by side, both looking uncomfortable. When it came time to say their vows, they spoke the words quietly, like they were afraid to say them too loud. Do you, Rebecca Hayes, take Jace Thornton to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Her voice was barely a whisper. Do you, Jace Thornton, take Rebecca Hayes to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. There were no rings exchanged. Rebecca still wore Tom's ring, and Jace had never owned one. When the Reverend said they could kiss, they just nodded at each other instead. After the ceremony, the ladies of the church had prepared a small meal. People ate quietly and left early. This wasn't a celebration. It was more like a business meeting that happened to be held in a church. When they got back to the ranch, Jace unloaded his few belongings from his horse. Everything he owned fit in 2 small bags. The barn has a small room in the back, Rebecca said. It has a bed and a washstand. Tom used to sleep there sometimes during calving season. That'll be fine. Lucy helped Jace carry his things to the barn. She chattered away about the animals and showed him where everything was kept. Rebecca watched from the house window, surprised at how comfortable Lucy seemed with him. That first week was strange for all of them. Rebecca tried to keep everything the same as it had been before, but nothing felt normal anymore. They ate meals together because it would look odd to the neighbors if they didn't. But conversation was awkward and forced. Jace worked from dawn to dusk, fixing things around the ranch that had been broken since Tom died. He repaired fences, cleaned out the barn, and checked on the cattle. Rebecca had to admit he knew what he was doing. He worked with the steady, practiced movements of someone who had been doing ranch work his whole life. He's a good worker, their neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, said when she came by to check on them. Your Tom would approve. Rebecca didn't know what to say to that. She watched Jace from the kitchen window while she cooked dinner. He was different from Tom in every way. Where Tom had been average height and slender, Jace was tall and broad. Where Tom had been quick to laugh and joke, Jace was serious and quiet. One evening, Rebecca brought Jace his dinner out to the barn. She usually just called him in to eat. But it had been raining all day and she thought he might be hungry. You don't have to bring my food out here, Jace said, looking up from the saddle he was repairing. I know, but it's raining. He wiped his hands on a rag and took the plate. Thank you. Rebecca was about to leave when she noticed something. That's Tom's saddle. Jace stopped eating. I'm sorry. I should have asked. The stirrup leather was torn and I thought, no, it's fine. It should be used. Tom would want his things to be useful. They stood there in the dim light of the barn, both thinking about the man who used to own everything around them. He must have been a good man, Jace said quietly. The best. I'm not trying to replace him. I want you to know that. Rebecca looked at Jace's face in the lamplight. I know. 2 weeks after the wedding, trouble came to the ranch. Rebecca was hanging laundry when she saw riders approaching. 3 men on horseback, moving fast. She didn't recognize them, and something about the way they rode made her nervous. Lucy, she called. Come inside now. Lucy was playing in the yard, but she heard the urgency in her mother's voice and ran to the house. Jace was out checking the fences in the north pasture. He was too far away to see the riders coming. The 3 men rode up to the house and stopped. They were rough-looking with dirty clothes and hard faces. The leader was a big man with a black beard and cold eyes. Morning, ma'am. the leader said, but his voice wasn't friendly. We're looking for some cattle that wandered off from our herd. Mind if we take a look around? Rebecca stayed on the porch, keeping herself between the men and the door where Lucy was hiding. What do your cattle look like? Brown and white. About 20 head. They might have mixed in with yours. Rebecca knew their cattle well. They didn't have any brown and white steers. I haven't seen any strange cattle. You're welcome to ride around the property and look, but I don't think you'll find them here. The leader smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Well, we'll just have a look anyway. Sometimes cattle get all mixed up together, and it's hard to tell which belongs to who. That's when Rebecca understood. These weren't ranchers looking for lost cattle. These were rustlers, planning to steal some of their herd and claim they were just taking back their own animals. I think you should leave, Rebecca said, trying to keep her voice steady. Now that's not very neighborly, the leader said. He dismounted and started walking toward the porch. That's when they heard the sound of hoofbeats coming fast. Jace appeared over the hill, riding hard. He must have seen the strange horses from a distance. Jace rode straight up to the group and dismounted smoothly, his hand resting near his gun. Something I can help you gentlemen with? The leader looked Jace up and down. Just looking for some lost cattle. Your wife here was being real helpful. I'm sure she was, but I know every head of cattle on this ranch and we don't have any strays, so I think it's time for you to move on. Is that so? The leader's hand moved toward his gun. And who's going to make us? What happened next surprised everyone, including Rebecca. Jace's gun was in his hand so fast it seemed like magic. 1 second his hand was at his side, the next he was pointing a Colt .45 at the leader's chest. I am, Jace said quietly. The other 2 men reached for their guns, but Jace swung his pistol toward them. I wouldn't if I were you. I'm faster than all 3 of you, and we all know it. The leader's eyes were wide. He had clearly expected to deal with a farmer, not a gunfighter. Now, Jace continued, his voice calm and steady, you're going to get back on your horses and ride away from this ranch. And you're not going to come back. Because if I see you on my land again, I won't be so polite. The 3 men looked at each other. They were bullies, used to scaring people who couldn't fight back. But Jace was clearly not one of those people. This ain't over, the leader said as he climbed back on his horse.
Yes, it is, Jace replied.
Unless you want it to be permanent. After the men rode away, Rebecca came down from the porch. Her legs were shaking. Are you all right? Jace asked, holstering his gun. I think so. Lucy, you can come out now. Lucy ran out of the house and straight to Jace, hugging his legs. You scared the bad men away. Jace looked uncomfortable with the attention. They weren't really bad men, just confused about their cattle. But Rebecca knew better. She had seen the look in the leader's eyes. Those men had come to steal from them and probably worse. If Jace hadn't shown up when he did, where did you learn to draw a gun like that? She asked. Jace's face closed up. You pick things up when you need to. That night at dinner, Rebecca couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Jace had saved them, but he had also shown her that there was more to him than she knew. The way he handled that gun was not something you learned working cattle. It was the skill of someone who had been in real danger before. Mr. Jace, Lucy said over her soup, are you a gunfighter? Lucy, Rebecca scolded. But Jace answered seriously. No, Lucy, I'm a rancher. But sometimes ranchers have to know how to protect their families. Like Papa did. Yes, like your Papa did. After Lucy went to bed, Rebecca and Jace sat on the porch. It was a warm evening and the stars were bright. Thank you, Rebecca said. For today. You don't need to thank me. This is my home now, too. It was the first time either of them had called the ranch home since the wedding. Those men will probably come back, Rebecca said. Maybe, but they'll think twice about it now. You're not what I expected, Rebecca said quietly. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone simpler, I guess. Someone who needed help as much as I did. Jace was quiet for a long moment. Maybe I do need help, just not the kind you're thinking about. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the prairie. For the first time since Tom died, Rebecca felt safe. The storm hit on a Tuesday night in late September, catching everyone by surprise. Rebecca was reading to Lucy before bed when the wind started howling around the house. By the time she tucked her daughter in, rain was beating against the windows like angry fists. Mama, I'm scared, Lucy whispered, pulling her blanket up to her chin. It's just a storm, sweetheart. It'll pass by morning. But as Rebecca looked out the window at the lightning flashing across the prairie, she wasn't so sure. This wasn't an ordinary storm. The wind was strong enough to shake the house, and the rain was coming down in sheets. She made herself some tea and sat in the parlor, listening to the storm rage outside. She worried about the cattle, about the roof, about Jace out in the barn. The small building wasn't as sturdy as the house, and if the wind got much stronger, a tremendous crack of thunder shook the whole house, followed immediately by a bright flash of lightning. Lucy started crying in her bedroom. Rebecca was about to go comfort her when she heard a loud banging on the front door. She opened it to find Jace standing on the porch, soaked to the skin. Water dripped from his hat and clothes, and he was breathing hard. "Part of the barn roof blew off," he shouted over the wind. "I need to get inside before the rest of it comes down." Rebecca stepped aside to let him in. "Are you hurt?" "No, but I lost most of my things. The rain's getting into everything." Lucy appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. "Mr. Jace? What happened?" "Just some roof trouble, little one." Nothing to worry about, but Rebecca could see he was worried. His few possessions were getting ruined, and he had nowhere dry to sleep. Another crash of thunder made Lucy run to Rebecca, burying her face in her mother's skirt. The little girl was trembling. "She's scared of storms," Rebecca explained to Jace. "Has been since—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Jace understood. "Since her father died?" "Lucy," Jace said gently, kneeling down to her level. "Do you know what I do when I'm scared of something loud?" Lucy peeked out at him. "What?" "I tell myself a story about what's really making that noise." "Want to hear what I think thunder really is?" Lucy nodded. "I think it's just the sky's way of rearranging the furniture. You know how sometimes your mama moves the chairs around in the kitchen? The sky does that too, but with clouds, and sometimes the clouds bump into each other and make a big noise, just like when you accidentally knock over a chair." Lucy giggled despite her tears. "The sky has furniture?" "Oh yes, cloud furniture. Very big and fluffy. And when the sky wants to change how things look, it moves everything around. That's why it sounds so loud." "What about the lightning?" "That's just the sky turning on its lamp to see what it's doing." "Have you ever tried to move furniture in the dark?" "It's pretty hard." Lucy was smiling now. "You're silly." "Maybe a little." Rebecca watched this exchange with surprise. She had never seen the side of Jace before, gentle, playful, good with children. It made her wonder what other sides of him she hadn't discovered yet. Another flash of lightning lit up the room, followed by thunder. But this time Lucy just looked out the window and said, "The sky is moving its couch again." Jace smiled. "Sounds like a big couch." "Can Mr. Jace stay inside tonight, Mama?" Lucy asked. "Since his room got broken?" Rebecca hesitated. She had been very clear about the boundaries of their arrangement. Jace lived in the barn, she and Lucy lived in the house, but she couldn't send him back out into the storm. "He can sleep on the couch in the parlor," she said finally. "I don't want to impose," Jace said. "You're not imposing. It's just for tonight." Lucy clapped her hands. "Can we all sit by the fire? Like a real family?" Before Rebecca could object, Lucy was already dragging blankets into the parlor. Soon they were all sitting around the fireplace listening to the storm outside. It felt strange but not unpleasant. "Tell us about where you came from," Lucy said to Jace, "before you came here." Jace was quiet for a moment. "I had a ranch in Texas, not as big as this one, but it was mine." "What happened to it?" Rebecca started to tell Lucy not to ask personal questions, but Jace continued. "I lost it. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes other grown-ups aren't very nice. A man wanted my land and he found a way to take it from me." "That's not fair," Lucy said indignantly. "No, it's not. But fair and unfair don't always matter. Sometimes you just have to start over somewhere new." "Is that why you came here? To start over?" "Yes, and I'm glad I did because I got to meet you and your mama." Lucy beamed at this. Rebecca felt something flutter in her chest, a feeling she hadn't expected and wasn't sure she wanted. As the storm continued, they found themselves talking more freely than they ever had before. Jace told them about growing up on a small farm, about learning to work with horses, about the dream he'd had of building something lasting. "I always wanted a big family," he said, staring into the fire. "Brothers and sisters, lots of children. But it never worked out that way." "Why not?" Lucy asked. "I never found the right person to build a family with. I was always too busy working, too focused on the ranch. By the time I realized what I was missing, it was too late." Rebecca found herself studying his face in the firelight. She was beginning to understand that Jace was a lonely man, someone who had spent most of his life alone. It made her feel sorry for him, which was dangerous. She couldn't afford to feel sorry for him. That would lead to other feelings, and she wasn't ready for that. Around midnight, Lucy finally fell asleep curled up between them on the big couch. The storm was still raging outside, but it seemed less frightening now. "I should put her to bed," Rebecca whispered. "Let me," Jace said softly. He scooped Lucy up carefully, and she didn't even wake up. Rebecca watched him carry her daughter to her bedroom, tucking her in gently. When he came back, they sat on opposite ends of the couch, suddenly awkward again without Lucy between them. "Thank you," Rebecca said, "for being so good with her. She's a special little girl. You've done a good job raising her. Tom and I did it together. I don't know how to do it alone. You're stronger than you think." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the fire crackle and the rain on the roof. "Can I ask you something?" Rebecca said finally. "Go ahead. That day with the rustlers, you drew your gun so fast. Where did you learn to do that?" Jace's jaw tightened. "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do. We're married now, even if it's just on paper. I have a right to know what kind of man is living on my ranch." Jace stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the storm. "When I was 16, a gang of outlaws raided our farm. They killed my parents and burned everything down. I was hiding in the root cellar, too scared to help." Rebecca felt her breath catch. "After that, I swore I'd never be helpless again. I learned to shoot, learned to fight. I practiced every day until I was faster than anyone I'd ever met." "Did you ever use it? Against people?" "Yes, but only when I had to. Only to protect myself or other people." He turned to look at her. "I've never killed anyone who didn't deserve it, Rebecca. But I won't lie to you, I've killed men." Rebecca didn't know what to say. She had suspected there was violence in his past, but hearing it confirmed was different. "Does that change things between us?" Jace asked. "I don't know. I need to think about it." "I understand." The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving a clear blue sky and a lot of damage. Part of the barn roof was indeed gone, and there were tree branches scattered everywhere. But they had all survived the night, and that was what mattered. As Jace surveyed the damage to the barn, Rebecca brought him coffee and some breakfast. "I've been thinking about what you told me last night," she said. Jace tensed, as if expecting her to ask him to leave. "I think," Rebecca continued, "that we all have things in our past we're not proud of. What matters is what we do now." "And what do you think I'm doing now?" "I think you're trying to build something good. I think you're trying to protect us. And I think," she paused, surprised by her own words, "I think Tom would have liked you." It was the first time she had said anything that suggested she might be starting to accept Jace as more than just a business arrangement. And for the first time since the wedding, Jace smiled. Really smiled. "I would have liked him too," he said. As they worked together that day to clean up the storm damage, Rebecca found herself watching Jace more closely. She noticed how careful he was with everything, how he never wasted anything, how he seemed to understand what needed to be done without being told. Maybe, she thought, this arrangement might work out better than she had expected. Maybe they could build something together, not love necessarily, but partnership, respect, maybe even friendship. It was more than she had hoped for and less than she feared. October brought cooler weather and something Rebecca hadn't expected, a kind of comfortable routine. She and Jace had fallen into an easy pattern of sharing meals and daily tasks. He helped her with the heavy work around the ranch, and she found herself looking forward to their evening conversations on the porch. Lucy had taken to following Jace around like a shadow whenever she wasn't in school. He taught her how to curry the horses properly and showed her which plants the cattle liked best. Rebecca watched them together and felt something warm in her chest that she tried not to examine too closely. "Mama, there's going to be a dance at the church," Lucy announced one afternoon, running into the kitchen with a piece of paper. "Mrs. Patterson said everyone's supposed to come." Rebecca took the announcement and read it. The Copper Creek Harvest Dance was scheduled for Saturday evening. It was an annual tradition she and Tom had always enjoyed. "I don't think we'll go this year, sweetheart," Rebecca said. "But why not? Mr. Jace could come with us. Right, Mr. Jace?" Jace was washing up at the kitchen sink after working on fence repairs all day. "That's up to your mama, Lucy. Please, Mama. I want to show everyone that we're a real family now." Rebecca felt her heart squeeze. Lucy was trying so hard to make their strange arrangement feel normal. Maybe it would be good for her to go, to see other children and have some fun. I suppose we could go for a little while, Rebecca said reluctantly. Can you dance, Mr. Jace? Lucy asked excitedly. Jace dried his hands slowly. I know a few steps. Will you dance with Mama? Both adults looked uncomfortable. We'll see, Rebecca said quickly. Saturday evening came faster than Rebecca wanted. She put on her best dress, a green one that Tom had always said brought out her eyes. Then she immediately felt guilty for thinking about what Tom would have said. Jace cleaned up better than she expected. He wore a white shirt and dark pants, and his hair was neatly combed. He looked almost handsome, she thought, then pushed the thought away. The church hall was decorated with cornstalks and autumn leaves. Most of the town was there, including many people Rebecca hadn't seen since the wedding. She felt everyone's eyes on them as they walked in together. Evening, Rebecca, Mrs. Patterson said, bustling over to them. Don't you all look nice together? Jace, how are you settling in? Just fine, ma'am. Thank you for asking. And Lucy, my goodness, you're getting so tall. Lucy beamed and ran off to play with the other children. Rebecca and Jace found seats near the wall, both feeling awkward. The music started and couples began to dance. Rebecca watched them, remembering how she and Tom used to dance together. He hadn't been the best dancer, but he had made her laugh. Would you like some punch? Jace asked. That would be nice. He brought back 2 cups of the sweet, fruity drink and sat beside her. They watched the dancers in silence for a while. They're all watching us, Rebecca said quietly. Let them watch. We're not doing anything wrong. I know. It's just, this is the first social event I've been to since Tom died. People are wondering if we're really married or just pretending. What do you want them to think? Rebecca didn't have an answer for that. The truth was, she wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. Their arrangement had started as pure necessity, but somewhere along the way it had become something more complicated. Mama! Mr. Jace! Lucy appeared in front of them, her cheeks flushed from dancing with the other children. You have to dance together. Everyone else is dancing. Oh, sweetheart, I don't think... Rebecca started, but the music had changed to a slower song and other couples were moving closer together on the dance floor. Rebecca felt all eyes on them again. One dance, Jace said quietly, standing up and offering her his hand. Just so people won't talk. Rebecca hesitated, then took his hand. They walked to the edge of the dance floor, and Jace put his arm around her waist. She placed her hand on his shoulder and they began to move slowly to the music. It felt strange to be in another man's arms. Jace was taller than Tom, broader, and he smelled different, like leather and soap and something that was just him. His hand on her back was warm and steady. You dance well, Rebecca said, surprised. My mother taught me when I was young. She said a gentleman should know how to dance properly. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. They danced without talking, and Rebecca found herself relaxing despite her nervousness. Jace was a good dancer, confident but not pushy. He guided her around the floor smoothly and she began to enjoy herself. People are smiling at us, Jace said softly. Rebecca looked around and saw that he was right. Instead of the worried, watchful looks they usually got, people seemed pleased to see them together. They want this to work, she realized. Our marriage, they want us to be happy. Are you? Happy, I mean. Rebecca thought about it. I'm not unhappy. That's more than I expected a few months ago. When the song ended, they stayed on the floor for one more dance. This time, Rebecca felt more comfortable. She even found herself smiling when Jace spun her around gently. You have a beautiful smile, he said when she faced him again. The comment caught her off guard. Thank you. I don't see it enough. Something in his voice made her look up at his face. His gray eyes were serious, almost tender. For a moment, she felt something flutter in her stomach, a feeling she hadn't experienced since she was a teenager. The evening continued with music, food, and socializing. Rebecca found herself having a good time despite her initial reluctance. Lucy was clearly delighted to see her parents, for that's how everyone thought of them now, acting like a normal married couple. As the evening wound down, they walked home under a sky full of stars. Lucy skipped ahead of them, humming one of the songs from the dance. Thank you, Rebecca said to Jace. For tonight. I know it wasn't easy for you either. It wasn't so bad. Actually, I had a good time. Really? Really. It's been a long time since I felt like I belonged somewhere. They reached the house and Lucy hugged them both goodnight before running inside. Rebecca and Jace stood on the porch, neither wanting to end the evening quite yet. "It's a beautiful night," Rebecca said, looking up at the stars. "Beautiful," Jace agreed. But he was looking at her instead of the sky. She turned and caught him watching her. "What? Nothing. It's just, you looked happy tonight. Really happy. It was nice to see. I felt happy. It surprised me." They stood close together in the moonlight, and suddenly the air between them felt charged with something Rebecca couldn't name. "Rebecca," Jace said softly. "Yes? I know this started as just a business arrangement, but I want you to know that you and Lucy mean more to me than just saving the ranch." Her heart started beating faster. "Jace, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know." He started to turn away, but Rebecca caught his arm. "Wait." He turned back and she found herself stepping closer to him. "I want you to know that you mean more to us too. More than I expected." "Rebecca." Her name was barely a whisper on his lips. They were standing very close now. Close enough that she could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes. Close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body. "I think," she said slowly, "that maybe this doesn't have to be just business anymore." And then, before she could change her mind, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. It was meant to be a gentle kiss, a tentative exploration. But the moment their lips touched, something ignited between them. Jace's arms came around her, pulling her closer, and Rebecca found herself kissing him back with a passion that surprised them both. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "Rebecca," Jace said, his voice rough with emotion, I know this is complicated. I know it changes everything. Do you regret it?" She looked into his eyes and found her answer. "No, I don't regret it." They kissed again, softer this time, but no less meaningful. When they separated, Rebecca rested her forehead against his chest. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know, but I want to find out." She pulled back to look at him. "This is scary for me, Jace. I love Tom so much. I never thought I could feel anything like this again. I know. And I know I'm not him. I don't want to be him. But maybe we can build something different. Something that's ours." Rebecca thought about that. Something different. Something that honored what she had with Tom while still allowing room for something new with Jace. "Maybe we can," she said softly. They kissed once more under the starlit sky, and Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that she might not have to spend the rest of her life alone. Hope that love could come more than once in a lifetime. Hope that their strange arrangement might become something real and lasting. As they finally went inside, Jace to the barn, Rebecca to the house, both of them knew that everything had changed. They were no longer just business partners pretending to be married. They were two people who had found something unexpected in each other, something worth exploring. The prairie wind whispered through the grass around their home, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings. November brought the first snow and changes that neither Rebecca nor Jace had expected. After the night of the dance, something had shifted between them. Their conversations lasted longer, their glances lingered, and they found excuses to work together on tasks around the ranch. Rebecca caught herself watching Jace more often, the way he moved when he worked with the horses, how gently he spoke to Lucy, the concentrated expression on his face when he was fixing something. She was falling for him and it terrified her. Jace seemed equally affected. He brought her coffee in the mornings without being asked, helped her hang laundry even though it wasn't his job, and always made sure she had enough firewood for the house. Small gestures that spoke of a man who was thinking about her comfort and happiness. Lucy noticed the change too. "Are you and Mr. Jace going to be real married now?" she asked one evening while Rebecca was braiding her hair for bed. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "I mean like Mama and Papa Patterson. They hold hands and kiss and sleep in the same room." Rebecca's cheeks turned red. "Mr. Jace and I are already married, Lucy. But you don't act married. Not like other married people." Children saw everything, Rebecca thought. She couldn't explain the complexity of their situation to an 8-year-old. "Sometimes grown-ups do things differently," she said finally. "But do you love him?" The question caught Rebecca off guard. Did she love Jace? She cared about him, worried about him, looked forward to seeing him each day. When he smiled at her, her heart beat faster. When he was away from the ranch, she missed him. If that wasn't love, it was something very close to it. I think I might, she admitted quietly. Lucy grinned. I knew it. I can tell by the way you look at him. That same evening, Rebecca and Jace sat on the porch after dinner, wrapped in blankets against the cold. They had taken to spending these quiet moments together, talking about the ranch, the weather, their plans for the spring. I've been thinking, Jace said, about expanding the herd next year. If we can buy some good breeding stock, we could double our income in a few years. That sounds like a good plan, but it would cost money we don't have. I have some saved up, money I've been holding on to since I lost my ranch in Texas. Rebecca looked at him in surprise. You'd invest your own money in this place? It's my home now, too. Our home. The way he said our made Rebecca's heart skip. They were becoming a real partnership, she realized. Not just in name, but in truth. Jace, she said softly. Yes? I need to tell you something. I'm not sure how to say it, but... Before she could finish, they heard the sound of horses approaching fast, multiple riders coming toward the house in the dark. Jace was on his feet immediately, his hand moving instinctively toward his gun. Get inside, he told Rebecca. Lock the doors and keep Lucy away from the windows. Who is it? I don't know yet. But people don't ride this hard after dark unless something's wrong. Rebecca hurried inside and locked the door behind her. She could hear voices outside, men talking in low, urgent tones. Through the window, she saw torches and counted at least 5 riders. Lucy appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Mama, what's happening? It's all right, sweetheart. Just some visitors. But Rebecca knew it wasn't all right. The tone of the men's voices, the way they had arrived in the dark. This was trouble. Outside, Jace faced the riders. In the torchlight, he recognized the leader immediately. His blood ran cold. Hello, Jace, said Dalton Reed, the man who had destroyed his life in Texas. Miss me? Reed was exactly as Jace remembered, a tall, thin man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. The other 4 men with him were hired guns, the kind of men who would do anything for money. What do you want, Reed? Jace asked, keeping his voice steady. What's mine? You cost me a lot of money when you disappeared, Jace. I had to pay those bounty hunters deal with the law asking questions. It wasn't convenient. I don't have anything that belongs to you, Reed laughed. Oh, but you do. You see, I've done some research on your new life here. Married a pretty widow. Got yourself a nice ranch. Water rights, good grazing land. Worth quite a bit, I'd say. Jace's hand moved closer to his gun. This ranch has nothing to do with you, doesn't it? I figure you owe me for all the trouble you caused. This place should just about cover it. The ranch belongs to my wife. You have no claim on it. Your wife? Yes, I'd like to meet her. Why don't you invite us in for coffee? No. Reed's smile faded. I wasn't asking, Jace. Boys, I think our friend needs some encouragement to be more hospitable. The 4 gunmen spread out surrounding Jace. He was fast, but not fast enough to take down 5 men. Especially not when Rebecca and Lucy were in the house behind him. What do you really want? Jace asked. I want you to sign over this ranch to me. Tonight. In exchange, I'll let you and your family live. And if I don't? Reed shrugged. Accidents happen. House fires, for instance. Terrible shame when a whole family dies in a fire. Jace felt rage building in his chest. Bad enough that Reed had destroyed his life once. Now he was threatening Rebecca and Lucy. I need time to think about it, Jace said. You have until tomorrow night. If you haven't signed the papers by then, well, we'll have to get creative. Reed and his men rode away, leaving Jace standing alone in the yard. His hands were shaking with anger and fear. Inside the house, Rebecca unlocked the door when she heard the horses leaving. What did they want? She asked. Jace's face was grim. My past caught up with me. The man who framed me in Texas, he's here and he wants the ranch. The ranch? But it's ours. He can't just take it. He can if he kills us first and forges the papers afterward. Rebecca felt cold fear wash over her. What are we going to do? I don't know yet, but I won't let him hurt you and Lucy. I promise you that. They spent the rest of the evening making plans. Jace could take Rebecca and Lucy to town, leave them with someone safe, and then ride away. Reed would follow him and leave them alone. No, Rebecca said firmly when he suggested this. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for us. Rebecca, you don't understand. This man destroyed everything I had once before. I won't let him do it again. Then we fight together. He has 5 men with guns. I'm good, but I'm not that good. Then we get help. The sheriff, the townspeople. Reed probably has the sheriff bought already. That's how he operates. They talked until late into the night, but couldn't come up with a solution that didn't involve someone getting hurt or killed. Finally, Rebecca made a decision that surprised them both. If we're going to fight for this place, she said, if we're going to risk our lives for it, then I want you to know something first. What? I love you, Jace. I didn't plan it, didn't want it to happen so soon. But I do, I love you. Jace stared at her, his heart pounding. Rebecca, I know it's complicated. I know I'll always love Tom too, but what I feel for you is real. I love you too, Jace said, his voice rough with emotion. I have for weeks now. I just didn't know how to tell you. They came together then, holding each other tightly. Rebecca had thought she would feel guilty about loving another man, but she didn't. What she felt for Jace was different from what she had felt for Tom, but no less real. Whatever happens tomorrow, she whispered against his chest, I want tonight. I want to be your wife in every way. Are you sure? I'm sure. For the first time since their wedding, Jace didn't sleep in the barn. They made love slowly, tenderly, two people who had found each other against all odds. Afterward, they lay in each other's arms, talking quietly about their dreams for the future. When this is over, Jace said, I want to adopt Lucy officially. Make her my daughter in the eyes of the law. She'd like that. She already thinks of you as her father. And maybe we could have more children someday. Rebecca smiled in the darkness. I'd like that too. They fell asleep holding each other, and for a few hours they forgot about the danger waiting for them. They were just a man and woman in love, planning their future together. But morning came too soon, bringing with it the knowledge that they might not live to see those dreams come true. As the sun rose over the prairie, painting the sky red and gold, Rebecca and Jace prepared for the fight of their lives. They had found love in the most unexpected place, and now they would do whatever it took to protect it. The next morning dawned crisp and cold, with a pale sun struggling through gray clouds. Rebecca woke in Jace's arms, and for a moment she forgot about the danger they were facing. Then reality crashed back down on her. What time is it? She whispered. Early. Lucy's still sleeping. They had agreed that Lucy should go to school as usual, to keep things looking normal. Mrs. Patterson had offered to keep her overnight afterward, not knowing the real reason but sensing that something was wrong. I'm scared, Rebecca admitted. So am I, but we're going to get through this. Jace got up and started getting dressed. Rebecca watched him strap on his gun belt, checking his weapon with practiced movements. I still think you and Lucy should leave town, he said. Go to your sister in Denver until this is over. No, we've been through this. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Rebecca, if something happens to me, at least you and Lucy would be safe. And if something happens to you, what kind of life would that be for us? Always wondering, always afraid he might come back? Rebecca stood up and put her hands on his chest. We're a family now. We stay together. Jace covered her hands with his. I never had anyone willing to fight for me before. Well, you do now. They had breakfast together, trying to act normal for Lucy's sake. The little girl chattered about school and her friends, unaware that her parents were preparing for a battle that could cost them everything. After Lucy left for school, Rebecca and Jace spent the morning preparing. They cleaned all the guns in the house, checked their ammunition, and planned their strategy. If they come here, we'll have the advantage, Jace said, looking out at the approaches to the house. We know the land and we'll be fighting from cover. What if they don't come here? What if they wait for us in town? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Around noon, a rider approached the house. It was Deputy Wilson, the same man who had first confronted Jace about the wanted poster. Afternoon, folks, Wilson said, dismounting from his horse. Mind if I come in? Rebecca and Jace exchanged glances. Of course, Rebecca said. Inside, Wilson accepted a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. He looked uncomfortable. I'm going to be straight with you, he said. There are some men in town asking questions about you, Jace. They claim you're a wanted criminal and they're planning to arrest you tonight. What did you tell them? Jace asked. I told them that as far as I was concerned, you were a law-abiding citizen of Copper Creek, but I can't stop them if they have legal papers. Do they? Wilson shrugged. They say they do, but I've seen forged documents before. These men don't feel right to me. Rebecca felt a surge of hope. Will you help us? I can't officially go against other lawmen, but I can make sure I'm not available tonight if something happens, and I might mention to a few of the local men that you could use some friends. After Wilson left, Rebecca and Jace waited. The afternoon dragged by slowly, each minute feeling like an hour. They tried to keep busy, but both of them kept looking toward the road. As evening approached, Rebecca made dinner, though neither of them felt like eating. They were just sitting down when they heard horses again. 5 riders, Jace said, looking out the window. It's them. Remember the plan? Rebecca said, picking up the shotgun they had loaded for her. I love you, Jace said quickly. I love you too. Reed and his men rode up to the house just as the sun was setting. This time they didn't bother with politeness. Time's up, Jace, Reed called out. Come on out here and let's finish this. Jace stepped onto the porch, his hand resting on his gun. I'm not signing anything, Reed. I figured you'd say that. Boys, burn the barn first. Let's show him we mean business. One of Reed's men threw a torch into the barn. The dry hay caught fire immediately and flames began spreading quickly. Stop, Rebecca shouted, running onto the porch despite Jace's instructions to stay inside. Reed smiled when he saw her. Well, you must be the pretty widow. Don't worry, sweetheart. You'll find another husband soon enough. This ranch belongs to me, Rebecca said, raising the shotgun. You have no right to it. Rights don't matter much out here, lady. Power does, and I have more power than you. That's when they heard more horses approaching. Reed turned in his saddle and his smile faded when he saw 6 men riding toward them. Local ranchers and townspeople all armed. Evening, Reed, called out Murphy, the saloon owner. Heard you boys were causing trouble. This is none of your business, Reed replied, but Rebecca could hear uncertainty in his voice now. Jace and Rebecca are our neighbors, said another man. That makes it our business. Besides, Murphy continued, Deputy Wilson sent word that you boys might not be real lawmen after all. Said your papers looked a little suspicious. Reed's face darkened. You're making a mistake, old man. The only mistake would be letting you hurt good people. The odds had shifted. Reed had 5 men, but now there were 8 defenders, and the locals knew the land better. This isn't over, Jace, Reed snarled. I'll get you eventually. Maybe, Jace said, stepping down from the porch, but it won't be tonight. Reed seemed to consider his options. He could start shooting, but he'd probably lose. Or he could retreat and try again later. Let's go, boys, he said finally. We'll settle this another time. No, Jace said quietly. We'll settle it now. He walked out into the yard, his hand near his gun. I'm tired of running from you, Reed. Tired of looking over my shoulder. If you want to fight, let's finish it. Jace, don't, Rebecca called out. But Jace ignored her. Just you and me, Reed. Winner takes all. Reed dismounted, his eyes gleaming. You always were too proud for your own good, Jace. The 2 men faced each other in the yard while everyone else watched. The only sound was the crackling of the fire in the barn. You destroyed my life once, Jace said. Took everything I had. But you made one mistake. What's that? You gave me a reason to live again. You gave me something worth fighting for. Reed went for his gun, but he was a split second too slow. Jace's pistol was in his hand and firing before Reed could clear leather. The shot echoed across the prairie and Reed fell to the ground. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Reed's men started reaching for their weapons. I wouldn't, Murphy said, and Rebecca saw that all the local men had their guns drawn. Your boss is dead and you're outnumbered. Ride away now and we'll let you go. The 4 gunmen looked at each other, then at Reed's body, then at the determined faces surrounding them. One by one, they holstered their weapons. This ain't worth dying for, one of them said. They mounted their horses and rode away into the gathering darkness. Rebecca ran to Jace, throwing her arms around him. It's over, she whispered. It's over, he agreed, holding her tightly. The barn fire was put out before it could spread to other buildings, though they lost most of the hay. The local men helped clean up, and Murphy insisted on buying drinks for everyone at the saloon. You've got good neighbors, Jace told Rebecca as they watched the men work. We've got good neighbors, she corrected him. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home and Lucy had returned from the Pattersons' house, the 3 of them sat around the kitchen table. Lucy had been told that some bad men had tried to steal their ranch, but that good men had helped drive them away. So we don't have to worry anymore? Lucy asked. No, sweetheart, Rebecca said. We don't have to worry anymore. Good. I like our family the way it is. Jace reached across the table and took Rebecca's hand. So do I. That night, as they lay in bed together, Rebecca traced the line of Jace's jaw with her finger. What are you thinking about? She asked. How lucky I am. A year ago I had nothing. Now I have everything I ever wanted. What did you want? A home, a family. Someone to love who loves me back. He turned to look at her. You gave me all of that. We gave it to each other. Outside their window, the prairie wind blew across the grassland, carrying with it the scent of rain and the promise of spring. The danger was past, and they could finally begin building the life they had dreamed of. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There always were on a ranch. But they would face them together as a real family at last. Spring came early that year, bringing with it a sense of new beginnings. The snow melted faster than usual, revealing green grass that seemed greener than Rebecca remembered. Everything felt fresh and full of promise. It had been 5 months since the confrontation with Dalton Reed, and life had settled into a rhythm that felt both comfortable and exciting. Jace had officially adopted Lucy, and she now proudly told everyone that her name was Lucy Thornton. The legal papers made it official, but the love between father and daughter had been real long before any judge signed anything. Papa Jace, look what I found, Lucy called out, running toward the house with something cupped in her hands. Jace looked up from the fence he was mending and smiled. He still got a warm feeling every time Lucy called him Papa. What is it, little one? Baby rabbits. There's a whole nest of them behind the chicken coop. Rebecca came out of the house, wiping her hands on her apron. She was showing now, 4 months along with their first child together. The pregnancy had been a surprise but a welcome one. Let me see, she said, peering into Lucy's hands. Oh my, they're tiny. We should put them back where you found them, sweetheart. Their mama will be looking for them. But can I visit them sometimes? Of course, but from a distance. We don't want to scare the mother rabbit away. As Lucy carefully returned the baby rabbits to their nest, Rebecca and Jace exchanged a look of contentment. This was what happiness looked like, ordinary moments filled with love and laughter. The ranch was doing better than either of them had dared hope. With Jace's knowledge and Rebecca's determination, they had turned it into one of the most successful operations in the county. The new cattle Jace had bought with his savings were producing healthy calves, and the water rights that had once seemed like such a burden were now their greatest asset. Mrs. Patterson stopped by while you were out, Rebecca told Jace. She wanted to know if we'd help organize the church social next month. What did you tell her? That we'd be happy to help as long as you don't mind being in charge of the games for the children. Jace groaned playfully. You volunteered me to entertain a bunch of kids? You're good with children. Look how well you did with Lucy. Lucy's different. She's ours. Rebecca smiled at how naturally he said ours. In the beginning, he had been careful to remember that Lucy was her daughter, not his. Now she truly belonged to both of them. That evening, after Lucy had gone to bed, Rebecca and Jace sat on the porch swing that Jace had built for her birthday. It was one of her favorite places now, especially in the evenings when they could watch the sunset paint the prairie in shades of gold and crimson. I got a letter from my sister today, Rebecca said, leaning against Jace's shoulder. How is Catherine? Good. She wants to come visit when the baby is born. She's excited about being an aunt again. Will she stay long? A few weeks, probably. Is that all right? Of course. I'd like to meet more of your family. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, then said, She was worried about me, you know. After Tom died, she thought I'd never be happy again. And now she can't wait to meet the man who proved her wrong. Jace tightened his arm around her. I'm the one who got lucky. I never thought I'd have a family. Well, you're about to have a bigger one. They had talked about names for the baby, though they still had months to decide. If it was a boy, Rebecca wanted to name him after Tom, not as a replacement, but as a way of honoring the man who had made their happiness possible. If it was a girl, Jace had suggested they name her Hope, because he had said, that's what you and Lucy gave me. Hope for the future. As they sat together watching the stars come out, Rebecca thought about how much their lives had changed in just 1 year. She had gone from being a desperate widow facing the loss of everything, to being a woman with a loving husband, a growing family, and a bright future. Do you ever think about what would have happened if the town council hadn't forced us to marry? She asked. Sometimes. But then I remember that some things are just meant to be. You think we were meant to be? I think you were meant to save me and I was meant to protect you. Everything else just followed naturally. Lucy appeared in the doorway, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Mama, Papa Jace, I had a bad dream. Come here, sweetheart, Rebecca said, making room on the swing. Lucy climbed up between them and Jace wrapped his arms around both his girls. What was your dream about? I dreamed that the bad men came back and took you away. That's not going to happen, Jace said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home and you and Mama are my family. Nothing will ever change that. Promise? Promise. Lucy snuggled closer to them and soon she was asleep again. But neither Rebecca nor Jace wanted to move. This moment, the three of them together under the stars, safe and loved, was perfect. I love you, Rebecca whispered. I love you too, both of you. As summer approached, the ranch became busier. There were cattle to move to summer pasture, hay to cut, and preparations to make for the baby's arrival. Rebecca's pregnancy was going well, though she got tired more easily than before. Jace had become protective to the point of being comical. He wouldn't let her lift anything heavy, insisted she rest every afternoon and worried constantly about her health. I'm having a baby, not dying, she told him one day when he tried to stop her from hanging laundry. I know, but you're carrying my child. I want to make sure you're both safe. Your child? What about Lucy? Lucy is my daughter in every way that matters. But this baby? He placed his hand gently on her growing belly. This baby is proof that we're really a family. That what we have is real. Rebecca covered his hand with hers. What we have has always been real. From the moment you chose to stay and fight for us instead of running away. The baby kicked just then, as if agreeing with its mother. Jace's face lit up with wonder. Did you feel that? I feel it all the time now. The baby's very active. Just like its big sister. As autumn arrived again, their second autumn together, the harvest was abundant. The ranch had prospered beyond their wildest dreams, but more importantly, their family had grown in love and happiness. Rebecca was 8 months pregnant now, and Jace had become even more protective. He barely let her out of his sight, much to Lucy's amusement. Papa Jace is being silly again, Lucy announced one morning when Jace insisted on helping Rebecca down the porch steps. Papa Jace is being careful, he corrected her. Mama's not made of glass. No, but she's carrying something very precious. The baby was born on a crisp October morning, just as the sun was rising over the prairie. Dr. Morrison declared it the easiest birth he'd attended in years, though Jace might have disagreed. He had paced the kitchen floor for 6 hours, jumping at every sound from the bedroom. It's a boy, Dr. Morrison announced, opening the bedroom door. And he's got a fine set of lungs on him. Jace burst into the room where Rebecca was holding their son. The baby had dark hair like his mother and what looked like his father's gray eyes. He's perfect, Jace whispered, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. Thomas James Thornton, Rebecca said, looking down at their son. Tommy for short. After your first husband? After both the men I've loved. Thomas for Tom, James for you. Jace felt tears in his eyes as he touched his son's tiny hand. Hello, Tommy. I'm your papa. Lucy climbed onto the bed to get a better look at her new brother. He's so little. When will he be big enough to play with me? Not for a while yet, Rebecca laughed. But you can help take care of him. Can I teach him to ride horses? When he's older, Jace said. Much older. As winter settled over the prairie, the Thornton family was complete. They spent long evenings by the fire, Lucy playing with her dolls while Rebecca nursed the baby and Jace worked on plans for expanding the ranch even further. Next year I want to build a bigger house, Jace said one evening. Something with more bedrooms, a proper dining room, maybe even a library. A library? Rebecca teased. Getting fancy ideas, are we? Our children should have books, education, all the opportunities we never had. Our children will have love, Rebecca said. That's the most important thing. They'll have both. As Tommy grew from a tiny baby into a chubby, smiling infant, Rebecca marveled at how natural Jace was with him. He had worried that he wouldn't know how to be a father, but his instincts were strong. He was gentle but confident, patient but playful. One evening in early spring, As they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Rebecca realized that they had come full circle. It had been exactly 2 years since that first awkward meeting, when the town council had forced them together. "Do you remember what you said to me the first day we met?" she asked Jace. "I said a lot of things, most of them probably stupid. You said you wouldn't force anything on me that I didn't want. I meant it. I know you did, but what you didn't know was that I would end up wanting everything. You, this life, this family, all of it." Jace turned to look at her, his gray eyes soft with love. "And what you didn't know was that I was already falling for you that first day. You were so brave, so determined to protect Lucy. I knew then that you were someone worth fighting for. Even though I was grieving another man, even though love isn't about replacing what came before, it's about building something new."